Hello, my Grimlings.
Oh, and with all this, I thought I was in the wrong place. I bid you well.
Hey everyone, Belladonna Grim here It is Review Day! Specifically, we're going to be talking about the 2014 Australian-Canadian horror movie, The Babadook. Now, if you follow me on Tumblr, you probably have heard me talk about this movie before. I said that it's a great movie, but it's slow and probably not a movie I will watch very often, if ever again. Which is why I am reviewing it, because I really don't want anyone to read that, think, oh, this movie isn't worth watching, and bypass it when really it's a phenomenal movie and I think everyone should watch it at least once. So, let's get down to coffin nails. The Babadook was released at the Sundance Film Festival on January 17th, 2014, and was formally released in Australia on May 22nd of that same year. It was written and directed by Jennifer Kent, produced by Christina Satan and Christian Moliere, with cinematography by Radek Ladczuk. And there will be subtitles with all these people's names. The music was done by Jed Kurzel, and the editing was done by Simon Nuge. The movie is about single mother Amelia Vanek, played by Essie Davis, as she struggles to raise her precocious and hyperactive son Samuel, played by Noah Weissman, by herself following the death of her husband Oscar in a tragic car accident that occurred while he was taking her to the hospital to give birth to Samuel. Now, almost 7 years have passed since that day, but Amelia is still haunted by it and struggling to cope with the loss. One night, as she goes to read a book to Samuel, he pulls a book that she has never seen off his shelf called Mr. Babadook. Now, this strange and terrifying pop-up book seems to trigger a bizarre series of events that leaves you wondering, is there really a supernatural entity called the Babadook, or is this all somehow inside her head? Has she snapped? So let's start with what often makes or breaks a movie for me, the characters. Now, Essie Davis is amazing as Amelia. Her exhaustion and stress just bleeds off of the character in a very palpable and real way, which really helps to add tension to the story and lends credence to the belief that maybe this is just in her head. Noah Weissman is a real child. Children are notoriously difficult to get right in movies, because most child actors either aren't very good, or the characters they play are written terribly. I'm sorry, I had something get stuck in my throat. Weissman does a phenomenal job of portraying a young, hyperactive, magic-obsessed, monster-obsessed little boy. And that really, really helps. Now, there are some other characters I could mention, but they're really best addressed later on in the review, so we'll get to them in a moment. Let's move on to the atmosphere. Now, this is actually one of my favorite parts about this movie. The entire movie, up until after the climax, is dreary. It's gloomy and gray. It feels a little grimy, as if Amelia's grief and exhaustion are literally manifesting in the world around her as a physical thing. As things get progressively worse, the movie gets even darker, with more and more scenes taking place at night, further adding to the darkness and the isolation of the two main characters. Now, remember when I said we would get back to the other characters? Well, here we go. I mentioned that Amelia is struggling to raise Samuel. This struggle is made even more obvious by the characters around her, with the exception of Amelia's elderly next-door neighbor, who is quite possibly the sweetest little old lady ever, and one of her male co-workers who possibly has the hots for her. Literally every other character she encounters is rude or mean or selfish or just adds to her stress. I mean, even her sister's a bitch. And I love how honest this movie is about the nastiness and general mean-spirited behavior that single mothers often face, not just from from an unsympathetic public, but from their families as well. Her sister Claire literally seems to think that she should just be over Oscar's death, because it's been almost 7 years, and outright says that she hates being around Amelia's son to Amelia. Like, it's not something Amelia just overhears. She literally looks her sister in the eyes and says, "I hate being around your son." Excuse the really bad accent. I could never do an Australian accent, ever. Another great thing is that they don't shy away from how hard this is on the child as well. Samuel is considered a bit strange because he's obsessed with monsters, and not just obsessed with monsters, but with killing them. He's got all sorts of really cool improvised weapons for this purpose, including my personal favorite, which is this miniature crossbow that shoots those little metal darts that you fling at dartboards. It's a pretty impressive build for a 6, almost 7-year-old kid. Early on in the movie, he takes one of these weapons to school, resulting in the principal calling Amelia in, which is actually kind of strange to me because where I live, the kid would probably be taken to jail, age be damned. But what's really interesting is that throughout this entire conversation between the principal and the teacher and his mother, not once does anyone other than Amelia ever refer to him by name. They just call him the boy. Like, capital letters, the boy. Another great moment that they put in is when Samuel's cousin actually leaves her own birthday party to seek Samuel out. He's huddled in this little playhouse, like, 2-3 feet off the ground, just huddled in the back corner. She seeks him out for the sole purpose of bullying him mercilessly. She literally tells him that he doesn't deserve to have a father because he's too weird. And I'm glad they put that in there, because so often we like to view children as these little angels with little, fluffy white wings and halos, when the truth is that children can be just as cruel, if not even more so, than their adult counterparts. Children pounce on any sort of perceived weakness in their peers like a lion on a lame and lonely gazelle. They're not nice. All of these things, as well as the effects regarding the Babadook itself, just make this movie. There's a great scene, it's one of those scenes that make you think, oh, there is a Babadook, before suddenly leaving you wondering again. Maybe not. Where the Babadook is skittering across the ceiling above Amelia in her bed, like an oversized bug. Like, it even really sounds like one of those really big bugs skittering around, which is a little unsettling for me. I used to live near a heavily wooded area, and we had these enormous roaches that, because of how close it didn't matter. You could have, a catalog spread from Better Homes and Garden. They'd get in the house. They'd just come in through the door. That's how close you were to the woods. And you could hear them, and it's the exact same sound. Also really cool is how Amelia herself begins to see the Babadook everywhere. in the pop-up book she reads Samuel, which later makes a reappearance in an even creepier way. The Babadook is shown wearing a big, heavy-looking black coat and I want to say tall, not quite a top hat, like somewhere in between a top hat, a tall black hat that sort of looks like a top hat. And she literally starts to see those items everywhere, like in the police station, in her neighbor. Like she looks across the garden sees her neighbor watching TV, and she sees it in the shadows, and then she looks again and it's gone. And I don't want to give anything away, at least, not in this video. If you want me to do a spoiler video, I will. But this leads to some really, really amazing, amazing scenes, which all leave you wondering if there really is this Babadook creature or if she has lost her mind. Again, not getting into spoilers, but I do want to talk about the climax. This movie is 94 minutes long, from the opening credit to the last line of the ending credits. Most of that is pretty slow, but about 30 minutes from the end, things really take a turn, and it's pretty much non-stop action for the next 15 minutes or so of the movie. Really, the climax just makes this movie for me. It's the best part. It's rough, it's brutal, it's emotionally draining for Amelia and Samuel, but it's also cathartic as well, and it leads to a really sweet, albeit somewhat strange ending that I also really enjoyed. So why will I likely not watch the movie again? Just because it is really slow up until you get to the climax. It's sort of like the original Amityville Horror in that regards. It builds in a really slow manner that explodes into a wild climax and then finishes on a softer note. Unfortunately, that's not really the type of horror movie that I enjoy watching. Even if it is a really good movie, the way the Babadook here is. For me, once really is enough, though I might go back and rewatch my favorite scenes from time to time, and might watch it again if I'm trying to get a friend to watch it. I'm just not very likely to pick it up and watch it beginning to end just for myself again. Not when I have other movies. Like The Exorcist or Poltergeist. And there you have it, Grimlings, the Babadook. Let me know if you want a spoiler video or not, or if you felt like this video drifted too far into spoiler territory. I put out videos every Wednesday, so like and subscribe, and follow me. I'm on Tumblr as Wednesday Child's Witchcraft, and on Twitter and Instagram as @StarsAndGalaxies, and there will be links below in the description. So I will see you guys next week. Bye, lovelies!
Tell him I was more than just a great set of boobs. I was also an incredible pair of legs.